All right, here we are here with Josué at Sagebrush Cafe, and we're feeling okay.
Yeah, I think I'm all right.
We're here talking about painting-inspired photographs. I saw a little girl here with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Did you get tickets for that at SoFi Stadium?
I did not, but I do some very, very amazing Red Hot Chili Peppers covers.
Really? I got tickets. So I'm going to be doing covers in SoFi Stadium.
Well, I thought this was like a Nardwar interview where you'd kind of give me some tickets or some sort of thing.
I should have brought something. Are you selling stuff here, by the way?
Selling 9 pieces right now, priced at $100 a piece. They're all taken around like Southern California over the past course of my 2 years doing photography. And I tried going for something that really reflected what I was going for in the painting realm. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of it. It's my first time showing, and we'll see how it goes.
Nice. Well, let me pull out my index cards here. So now, I was looking at these pictures, and I realized that they were shot up like really high up in the sky. Mm-hmm. So I was like, where do you find a ladder that tall?
Best Buy.
Okay. Best Buy, you get a ladder very tall. You get up there. And is it scary being up there? Like, do you get a tripod too? That's a really big tripod?
It's all freehand.
Freehand? Okay. It's pretty impressive. I also want to know, like you were saying these are shot in Southern California. Is this stuff that like you've driven by or you've been to in the past? This would look cool from high up. Do you picture like what it would look like from that angle?
All of these photos, I think for the most part, were taken because of Google Maps. So like the process that I usually went through was go on the computer, go on Google Maps, and then try and look something within a certain distance, radius from where I'm at, and see what I can shoot, drive out there. Yeah, there's some locations that I've actually driven by where I thought this is gonna look incredible.
Yeah.
And then it just really falls flat when you look at it from an aerial point of view. So I went out to Trona, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was thinking, okay, shooting the pinnacles is going to look really incredible because my style during that time was just bird's eye view, top down. So I went out there and it did not look incredible. It looked really flat, surprisingly. And so I was really disappointed. And on the way back, that's when the 7.2 earthquake hit.
Oh, really?
So I was driving around and then I was like driving on the dirt road. And I was thinking, maybe I'm going a little bit too fast because I feel my car rocking a little. And all of a sudden, I felt it go.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was really bad.
So you go on Google Maps and you're looking at like the aerial view already?
Yeah.
And it was different from what? So how is it different than the Google Maps? Like when you're actually there? Like,
well, the Trona one was something I always wanted to go visit, so I didn't actually research that one. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when you're looking at Google Maps, you can only zoom in a certain amount, and so that distance is already really high up. So when you go and shoot with the drone, you're actually shooting in a much closer distance than the aerial or the satellite photos that are being taken pictures of. Okay,
so you couldn't like just go on Google Maps and like screenshot and be like, okay, that's good, put it into Photoshop and like adjust some levels or something?
No, it just too low res for me.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So obviously, there was a little joke about the ladder and the tripod. So that's not real. He's not going, we're just being goofy. We're in a silly, goofy mood.
As far as you know.
Yeah. But, so let's say people who don't have a ladder that big, and they have a drone, and they're like, I have a drone, what's the big deal? Taking pictures, you know, like, I could do that. If I had a drone, I'd be able to do something like that. You know, what kind of things are those people missing? In terms of, like, aesthetic for photography and, like, actual technique involved?
Well, I think it all comes from, I was watching, lately I've been doing a lot of research because I'm trying to actually move away from drone photography and go a lot more handheld. And something that one of the YouTubers said that really stuck with me was that your style is a combination of your interests. So with my interest, comes mostly from growing up and watching my dad paint in his studio. So there's a lot of that painterly quality that I tried looking for. And I tried using what I have around me, and that's like the first step that I tried making it practical. And there's a surprisingly like a lot amount of color that's in the desert that you wouldn't really believe. And so I think anyone can take a similar photo like what I've taken in the past, but I think it also comes out in like the editing technique. So it's a mixture of like your location, the way you shoot it, how you edit it. It all comes into play. So I think people, when they're looking at what to shoot, you got to think about like what you want said in your photos, how you want to be represented in your work. With my work, I choose a lot of like really bright locations, a lot of saturated colors, but at the same time trying to keep like the authenticity of the locations that I'm visiting. I don't really like doing any kind of Photoshop or cloning anything out, just try and stay as natural as possible to kind of just influence other people to go out and explore on their own.
Yeah. That's interesting. It does, like, a lot of your stuff looks like otherworldly, It reminds me of the end of, like, 2001, Space Odyssey, like, with all it's like the shots, like the helicopter shots they had, like, going through the mountains, and they changed the colors, and the filmic kind of liquid painting kind of things going on. That's something that just with any art, if anyone's out there, like, one thing I do to find new bands sometimes is that I go to, like, the Wikipedia page of, like, a band that I like, or if I look interviews, and you see what kind of bands they listen to, and really, like, you could listen to a band and you see all the stuff they listen to that inspired them, and they're just a mix of all that. Like, you can't really help being like a
product of your interests.
Yeah, like a snowball. Like you're snowballing through life, and you're picking all this stuff up, and that's what you kind of become. Like, isn't there a quote, like an Andy Warhol thing, where he says that like a musician just plays the same song over and over, or a painting is just always painting the same kind of thing? Have you heard that?
Never heard of that.
No? Okay, maybe I'm just making that up. But, everyone kind of has a story that you just kind of tell over and over, like a painting that you do over and over. Like, if you really, like, dive into something, a lot of stuff is just, like, the same things. I don't know. Even, like, this one I'm doing right now is kind of a mix of stuff I like to watch.
So what kind of stuff do you like to watch? What inspired the Bottenbig show?
This is about you. You're trying to turn the tables on me. Trying to do some gotcha journalism. I understand.
I almost had you.
Yeah, I didn't know you were getting into journalism.
Well, that's actually something that I put in my photos. So, like, if you go on my website or on my Instagram, you see a lot of very thought out descriptions of these landscapes that I've shot, and I think that kind of comes from partially trying to explain what it is people are looking at. I actually don't really like to do that in person, because I want to hear what they have to say and like how they interpret the art, because a lot of their personality comes through that. But yeah, so part of the reason why I put in a little bit of like photojournalism and research into these locations is for myself to better understand what it is that I'm photographing, because there's a lot of like mystery behind it. You go out and shoot at artist palette, and you see all these beautiful bright colors. And I was like, okay, well, where does all this stuff come from? And it's from like oxidation of like different kinds of minerals and stuff, or going to shoot at the dry salt lakes, and you can't help but wonder how it all formed together, And so there's a little bit of that in there, and also some just storytelling, coming from a film background. It's interesting telling a little bit of that like documentary style storytelling. So it all kind of comes together to form my style. And
do you think like the description of the landscape is really like affecting, like it kind of adds more to the viewer's experience in a little bit? It's not taking away from their own interpretations, just to have like a factual where this was maybe, because I feel like people are going to ask that kind of questions anyway before they make their own judgment and think about it. But also it is kind of thinking about like was this shot in outer space? Did you go to Mars to shoot this one? I'll talk a little bit. You want me to do a little bit of talking here about what?
Carry the load.
I really like the show. Joe Parra Talks with You. Have you seen that show?
I have not.
It's excellent. I really highly recommend it. I think it's on HBO Max right now. If you have that, it is on HBO Max right now, actually. But it's very good, and I think the thing about it is that it's just very slow and calm. And his metaphor is that you see a lot of shows these days, and it feels like it was made by an energy drink. And My show is more made by some hot apple cider, I think he says. So I just think, it's we're getting pretty far out there right now with Gen Z's sense of humor, and it's kind of like becoming like in music when jazz got like really complicated, or like when rock was starting to get into like prog rock, and then punk came out. So it's like with prog rock, you have to be so good at this instrument, you have to know so much stuff about it, then it's harder for new people to enter into the genre. But if you make stuff that's like just talking to someone, like podcasts are kind of getting big right now, just like more slow moving stuff, then it creates less of a barrier to entry, I think,
I think so. Right?
With punk rock, you only need to know like bar chords, like power chords, and then just do whatever you want. You can just do whatever you want. It's just really liberating and cool. It's just fun to do. As cool as it is to have like technically interesting, like deep involved editing and cool shots and all that stuff, it's not as fun to do. It's kind of stressful. Mm-hmm. I just want to do this for fun, and it's way easier just to lay this out on a timeline, cut out my breathing that I do all the time. That's something I noticed, is that I talk a lot and I'll say, like I'll be talking, it's like, hey, producer Ellis. That's really annoying. I wanted to do like a super cut of all my breaths. Like they have those the videos of the wrestlers doing that, but that just take too much work. But yeah, I don't think you should be too ashamed to put stuff out there and you're not totally obsessing over every little detail. Just throw stuff out there, have fun making stuff. Mm-hmm. This is more about, my whole channel is more about the process of shooting it and editing it than actually watching it. Like, I don't really blame people for not watching this sometimes, especially if it's just me. Like, if I have a cool guest on, it's different and you can learn something. But if it's just me, like, I'm not really too bummed out if I don't get a lot of views.
I think ultimately you got to just be creating, because that's some sort of an outlet that you want to get done. It's kind of therapeutic, mm-hmm. creating, And I think it's good that you started this. Keeping it simple, I think you can spend more time thinking out of like questions and flow of the conversation. I think it gets a lot, I think people can get a little scared to go out and venture into something new that they've never experienced. But I mean, I felt the same way going into photography, and something that I kept in mind was just get a little bit of your goal accomplished every day, just breaking everything down into bite size. Don't really think about the overall big picture. I mean, it's good to have a goal, but I think realistically breaking things down is something that will help you achieve in the long run. Yeah,
and I think, don't underestimate, when you do things every day, you're building up your own portfolio of work. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this YouTube channel, this is like episode 9 or something. Like, that kind of just happened out of nowhere. Just from me, like, wanting to put an episode out every 2 weeks, So if anyone's struggling creatively, just don't worry about making a big thing. Start small. How do you eat an elephant, Producer Ellis? How do you don't? Someone asked Ellie once, you gotta break. Someone's like, when you have big problems, it's hard. How do you eat an elephant? She was like, you don't? She's like, no, one bite at a time. Like, okay. It's overthinking stuff.
It could have been a cake. It could have been something like that.
Yeah, a big cake.
A big cake.
One bite at a time. Why an elephant?
I think a lot of people, including myself, I mean, we all do it. We see challenges as roadblocks instead of an opportunity to learn how to grow.
Yeah.
And I think something that kind of pushed me also to photography was sort of a roadblock that I hit with film and creating videos.
Whoa.
Guest appearance.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the times is roadblocks are kind of just like detours into finding success in another avenue that you didn't really consider.
That's a roadblock, and we're just going with it right there.
Yeah, so it's like always, what can I learn from this experience?
Yeah, now I'm gonna get into bird photography,
bird watching.
Yeah, we're naturals. Also, I like how our knees are like just not touching. Like we're not
almost
gay.
There.
We're not gay.
But even if we were.
Okay, she's my censor. Well, it's like that Vine blew up, like 2 guys in a hot tub, It's like 2 guys hanging on a bench. Not touching. We're both man spreading, but we're not touching. Something else I wanted to ask too, like when you go out there, like which pictures, how do you decide like what pictures you actually want to make the cut to be something that you want to show off or produce or print or?
Well, sometimes it's just like, what did I shoot that actually was exposed properly,
Really?
or what didn't get cut off?
Just like an intuitive sense of like, this feels right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, going to film school, you kind of learn about like the rule of thirds and lighting and everything. So I think like subconsciously I kind of have that built in. So it's more of like what feels right, what looks correct. And I think since I wasn't really like trained or went to school or really did anything like that for photography, I kind of just take a more like raw, natural approach to it, I guess.
It's kind of like speaking English or speaking a language, and you hear a sentence and you know it sounds wrong, but you don't really know why.
Yeah.
It's because you're a natural speaker of the language.
Yeah.
So
something like that. Another thing that I did like right before I started out was I kind of avoided consuming a lot of different like drone photography or aerial photography because I kind of just wanted to have fun with it. And I think going back to like what we were talking about, like the difficulties in starting out in something new, you kind of look at like the masters of like, okay, this is like, these are the people that did it right. And it's very daunting to try and like follow in that sort of footsteps or kind of set the bar for yourself that high when this is something you just really want to go out just to experiment with. So like going back to different influences that inspired me to go out was like I suffer from really bad anxiety, and like during that time when I was just starting out, I was starting to kind of get a little bit of depression. A lot of the times I would just bring my girlfriend out and we would just get lost in nature. And
yeah, that's cool.
And
even just getting some sun.
Yeah, just getting some sun, and it helps to just be outside of like your house and outside of your home, just to take a look around and kind of like refocus, so kind of get away from everything. And that's one of the reasons I stayed away from like cityscapes and stuff, just to kind of be out in nature and be alone, cool. Be alone with my thoughts.
I started learning guitar a while ago, and I always used to think like, oh, because I had a bunch of friends who always play guitar, and I have a cousin who plays guitar really well, he teaches music. I'm always thinking like, man, like I feel like you have to have like a natural talent to like either play an instrument or sing or whatever. Like I'm never gonna get that good, so why even try? But it's like I could learn some chords and I could like learn how to jam a little bit, like on pentatonic. Like that stuff's easy. You just gotta kind of do it every day. You can't be too in your head focused about it. You just gotta go do it.
But I think also like when you kind of just do it and you don't really spend so much time. I think prep work is good. Obviously, you got to have a little bit of prep work, but I think going out and just trying something and not really having that experience or background or someone like talking over your shoulder on like how you need to be doing things, I think that kind of helps you like reinvent that area in art for yourself, and you can find something new. It helps develop style, learn from your mistakes. But I do think at certain points you need to go out and sort of like get feedback. I think healthy criticism along the process is really necessary for you to like learn how to improve and streamline the process of learning how to do anything.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I think a big part, like the majority of the creative process sometimes is just creating an environment where your mistakes are okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something too about creativity, right? You mentioned your dad was an artist. And do you have like other artists in your family, and how does that really work out? I don't really have a lot of artists in my family, so I'm just wondering what that was like growing up, which you might not have any other anything else to relate that to, but like did you rebel by like wanting to do, there's like the archetype of like the militarized kind of strict family, and the kid wants to be an artist and express himself. What if it's the opposite? Like, did you want to join the military or do sports or something to rebel? Like,
I don't have any sort of athletic ability. I'm obviously not built for the military. So, no, there was no rebelling. And I think I was lucky to kind of grow up in a household where my dad really encouraged, experimenting with different mediums and watching him paint. I did some modeling for him. He would ask me to like, okay, why don't you lay down on the couch right there and put your leg up like this, act like you're in a field of flowers, and we're going to paint you like that. So
that's cool.
Learning how to be like comfortable in that sort of environment really helped. I think he just wanted to see me, just try something. It didn't have to be anything in particular, but just going out and experimenting and having fun, learning, being a lifelong learner is something that he really stresses. So I think me getting into film and then switching over to photography and seeing like how involved I was with that, I think that just satisfied, you know, the family and my parents' like approval, I guess you could say, of just that I was being passionate about something. You know, I think like when I was dating and stuff, it didn't really matter what the person was doing, just, I mean, as long as they're not like a serial killer or anything, but like if you're passionate about something, that's like one of the biggest forms of like attraction that I have towards a person, like just being passionate about something, being on fire for anything. It'd be about like collecting stamps or something, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's fun to get like, not even just like passion, but even to get like nervous for doing something is like a passion in its own way. Like I was feeling nervous about getting here. Like I don't want to make, like interviews are harder for me because like I don't want to make you look bad. It's like I got a reputation. I want to make sure that I could put something together into this that just doesn't, it's not boring and it doesn't make, you know what I mean? But it's kind of, you got to kind of live in that sometimes.
I think you kind of thrive on that too. It's because like you obviously learn from your mistakes, but then also like one of the reasons why I broke away from drone photography recently was because I found myself getting a little too comfortable in like the area, you know, and I think that's something my dad told me, a piece of wisdom that he handed down to me I think it was like last year. He was telling me, you know, it's time to move on when you find yourself a little bit too comfortable in that, and going out into another field or, you know, like changing up your style. So I'm going handheld now. I'm kind of terrified about it. You know, I felt like I found moderate form of success with drone photography and then kind of just leaving all that behind for like handheld photography, which is something I really didn't want to do. Mostly because I felt like drone photography offered a unique angle that, you know, was kind of like untapped. It was kind of terrifying for me to see where I would end up and if I would develop some sort of like unique style, but you know, being scared about that is just another form of the learning process. Yeah. So.
And you talked about like, you know, depression and stuff, and I feel like people who haven't been around people with depression or haven't had anything like that don't really realize it's, you know, it's not even all for everyone just being sad all the time, but it's like not feeling numb. Yeah. Not really having any feeling about anything, like being just apathetic. And, you know, that nervous kind of feeling is something that, you know, you're alive, you're feeling, you know, something's brewing inside of you. You gotta, you know, it's way better than just not feeling anything.
Yeah,
it's something you gotta realize.
To me, that's like the scariest part of finding yourself in depression, like as like a creator, is just not having the motivation to do anything and just sit around. You don't feel like you're getting any sort of inspiration to do anything. It's hard to get out of bed, and you know, that's one of the main takeaways from drone photography is just get out of bed and go try something. So.
Yeah, and that's something with COVID that just, you know, just go out and take a walk every once in a while. Doesn't take a lot of time. It's easy to do, and you just feel way better when you're done with it. And I wanted to ask too about how you actually got it set up, this show here, the cafe. Like, how does something like this get set up? Do you know the owner of the cafe? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them?
So I've been coming to this coffee house for quite a few years, since they first opened, and I hadn't come back in quite a while because of the traveling for the photography. And when I came back to visit again, I met up with one of the co-owners of the coffee house, and he was just talking to me about the photography, what we've been up to, catching up, and he asked me if I was showing anywhere, and I've never shown anywhere, like brought my work physically and had it printed out and displayed on a wall before. And so we kind of, you know, put this thing together and decided to put together a show. Even though most of the pieces here can be found online and on Instagram, I really encourage everybody to come out and check it out in person, because I feel personally that this is the right way of viewing the work, having it displayed in person. There's just nothing like seeing something physically and something tangible that you can touch and feel and look at with your own eyes. I don't really feel that having it on a tiny screen or on a computer monitor really does it justice. A lot of the details kind of fade out into obscurity. So yeah, it's really exciting for me to have the show here, and this coffee house kind of has like a really special place in my heart, so it being the first location for my work to be displayed really means a lot.
And how did you decide like what pictures you wanted to put up there, or which ones you wanted to have physically?
I think some of my work has I think it's pretty distinguishable what I shot first and what I ended up shooting later on. So a lot of like the beginning photos are more of just, I guess, less obscure, less abstract. And so, I mean, I have some pieces of, you know, like palm trees that I really wanted to take photos of, going out to my grandma's house close to Palm Springs. There's a lot of fields of different palm tree fields. So that was one of the first things that I went to go shoot. And while I think it's interesting, it didn't really give off that painterly quality. So what I looked for in selecting these photos was something of my later work and something that really reflected the painting inspired photographs motto that I kind of like taken and ran with. So something that looked a lot like a painting. Yeah. So that's it was
cool.
pretty easy to choose.
Yeah, some of them are I mean, I really like the one like with the palm trees, like that's like divided the palm trees, and that half is like and that's like a really awesome photo. That's not in there though, right? Because it's not like a painting inspired kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And like, how does the printing and shipping process work too? Do you consider that part of the art form as well, or is that just something you go to Kinko's and you get stuff printed out?
No, that's definitely. I'm like really picky about how my work gets printed. So I actually was looking out for a long time trying to find a good printing house, and one of the photographers that I've connected with, his name is Testa. He does a lot of really cool drone photography as well. Shout out to Zach if you're watching this.
We'll link that down in the description as well.
I actually got in touch with him, and he recommended this printing house called New Mexico Prints. Shout out to New Mexico Prints.
Put that down in the description below.
And they do really, really amazing work. So obviously they're based out in New Mexico, and
I have family out there. Albuquerque. Yep.
Shout out to Albuquerque.
Shout out Albuquerque.
So yeah, New Mexico Prints, they do really good work, and they have quite a variety of like different mediums to print out your stuff. I think like metallic, metal prints, and so on. So I personally go with the matte finish for the paper because I think it kind of closely resembles the watercolor like on a piece of paper or something. So to me, it reflects, it kind of adds on to that painterly look. So later on, I'm planning on doing some G-Clay, limited edition G-Clay prints, just to bring it up to another level as well. But yeah, very, very good work for New Mexico Prints.
All right. So you heard of that here. If you go on this website, Josué.com, you're not going to get just some Kinko's quality, kind of something you can just download and print out yourself. It's going to be
premium quality, baby.
Premium. And also, Ellis and I are going to find a new place, and we're definitely going to get.
Oh,
really? We want to.
I'd be honored.
Take time and really pick out what we want. But
just don't put it in the bathroom.
No, I won't.
Please.
Do you have one that's like seashells? You have a seashell one, right?
I do.
So we're gonna do that. We'll put that in the bathroom.
I'll make sure to restrict that.
We'll print that on some towels. Anyway, yeah. So you talked about handheld stuff. What other kind of stuff are you gonna do in the future? Like, what is the subject for handheld that you're shooting? Are you kind of just still exploring that, or have you found a niche that you want to dive into?
There's a couple different things that I have in mind. So long exposure black and white photography for like architecture stuff I'd really like to get into. Of course, just street photography in general. I feel like there's a lot of untapped, well, maybe not untapped potential there, but maybe untapped potential for myself, I'll say. I think doing that kind of forces you to be in the moment, and I think something that I really like about street photography is that you can't really replicate it. You can go back and visit landscapes, and I mean, weather's going to change and whatnot, but with street photography, you're there, you're in and out, it's a one-time thing. You got to be alert, and you got to be aware of your surroundings and everything. That really appeals to me. And then I also want to do a series of long exposure seascapes. So going to the beach and doing something very minimalistic with a lot of like gradients and color. Yeah, and those are the three things that I really want to focus on in this next year.
That's cool. Something, I'm going to give you a challenge that I think you should go to like really popular landmarks that have been photographed a million times and try to get something new out of it. That's something I think about.
Take your challenge.
Like, think about like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, or like the Hollywood sign or something, and like you see photos every once in a while, like someone will take a picture of the back of the Hollywood sign and it goes viral because people are like, but there's a backside, people go crazy about stuff like that. And so that's really hard to do, is like something that a million perspectives have, billions of perspectives have been viewed and photographed of certain things. That might be interesting. And where can people find your work and stay in touch with what you're going to do in the future and see all your past work and stuff?
You can check me out on Instagram. That's pretty much the only kind of social media that I have, actually. So you can follow me on there and stay connected. Haven't really been active too much since COVID started, but that's going to be changing very soon as soon as I start going out and shooting some more photos. But yeah, like going back to what you were saying, finding a different perspective or like capturing a different subject in a unique way is something that I've really wanted to do since the get-go. And doing drone photography kind of was also inspired by working at the local aerospace company, Lockheed Martin. So I was working with a lot of like aerial footage and stuff, and then that's where I kind of got the idea of like, okay, this is a unique perspective. This is kind of like a cheat, if you will, to kind of like stand out from all the other photographers. And it's kind of like I didn't really have to try in a sense. I mean, you did, there was effort, but it's just another easy way to kind of, I don't know, present yourself, your work in a unique way. Because I mean, not a lot of people at the time had commercial drones, so they weren't really shooting in that style. Now I think it's become a little bit more popular.
But also, you say easy, and it's like we were saying earlier, like going through life like a snowball and adding stuff up. For you, that's something with your life experience you were able to put together to things that you're working on. So for you, it was easy, and for other people, it's like, it's like people say like an idea that someone would call like a genius idea is really like a simple putting together of two different things that you have to be kind of at the right place at the right time with the right frame of mind and the right place in your life to really put something together and make it work out for you.
Yeah, and like by easy, I don't mean it as like a proud or pompous way or whatever, but it's more of just because like I already had the tools, I already had the experience, and I think that's why it's so important to go out and experience different things in life. Is it just gives you like another color to play with, another crayon in the box, and you never know when you're going to use it. It's just, I think that's an important thing about life too, like we were talking about, is you go through different difficulties. Sometimes you end up in a different spot than you thought you would be in, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because you don't really know how it's going to come together in the end. And I think creativity is kind of just putting together different dots, connecting the dots and putting things together that you don't really think would come together ultimately. It's kind of just a mixture of combining different experiences in your life.
And that's really all anything is. You want to make something new, you just got to combine some of it. How do you make a new human being? You combine two people and you make a new human being. So, don't go trying to reinvent the wheel to make stuff. Look about everything you have. Like even when I made this channel, it's like, what do I have? I have a camera, I have a producer, now I have a microphone, and I have friends and family who might want to call in, and you know what I mean?
And I think that's part of the charm of this channel is the simplicity of it and the honesty. And I feel like right now everything's really super produced, and it's kind of hard to find, like who is Bottenbig. You don't really have to look too deep, like you are who you are on camera, and I think that's one of the things that I like about it.
And I think Joe Rogan's starting to slip a little bit.
Oh no.
Neil Young, we'll have your music on our platform. Did you see that Neil Young canceled Spotify? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
But then he went on to promote Amazon Music. So it's like Neil Young really sticking it to big business. Right? You know what I mean? And he has his own streaming site that he has a Pono player. It's like a high res.
Yeah, I saw that. He tried coming out with that a few years ago,
yeah,
I think.
I love Neil Young's music. Don't get me wrong, but it's he's picking his battles there. Anything that you had in mind that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you about? That we could turn into a question and have you answer?
Well, you didn't ask about my shirt, so that kind of sucks.
Tell me about the shirt here.
Nah, I don't want to talk about it.
If you have 3D glasses, you can put them on at the beginning of the interview and get a whole new experience.
You might want to put a title there. Put your glasses on now.
Yeah, put your glasses on now. Whoa. I think that's all we had for today.
I think that's it.
It was a lot of fun. This is a great coffee place. Come out to Sagebrush Cafe, Coffee House, our house. Buy a picture, a photo. What do you call picture, photo? buy a photo?
Oh, I would say photo. I mean, picture.
Yeah, it's kind of
No, I'm
like
just kidding.
watch a movie or enjoy cinema.
Yeah, it's more of like that.
Yeah.
You know, don't even buy anything. You can just come out, check it out. That would mean a lot. I mean, if you come look at it and it speaks to you, or you know, you just like the photo, put it on Instagram and just give me a shout out. I would appreciate that. And that's just as good as a buy.
Okay, perfect. For next episode, I have a prompt from my audience because no one asks questions here. So I think something that gets a lot of attention online is anger, negativity, and we've all been positive vibes on this channel. But I want you guys to call in just like really pissed off and like say what kind of stuff really pisses you off. And I want to talk about things that make me angry. Producer Ellis, we'll work ourselves up and get angry. We're gonna have an anger episode.
Yeah, it's your opportunity to be honest.
Yeah.
Let them know how you really feel.
Yeah, we're gonna get pissed off together, and you know, express your feelings. All right, so we'll see you guys next episode. Thank you very much, Josué, for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Very great. Very great. I don't ever know how to end it still. Okay, bye guys. See you next episode. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you so much, man.